The game that no one seems to be talking about, but maybe people should. You're sleeping on this. A brand new demo just dropped for the action RPG Forspoken. The full game comes out January 24th of next year, 2023. The question of the day, is the game worth it? Is it worth the money? Is it actually good? I played the game, so maybe you don't have to. No, actually no. If you have the ability to play it, go play it. It's pretty badass. Let's talk about it. I'm Solace. This is Solace and Dread. We produce reaction videos and analytical content, primarily focused on Square Enix, Nintendo, and Capcom publications. Let's jump into it. First of all, what is Forspoken? Maybe you clicked on this video and you have no idea what the hell the game actually even is. So let's talk about what Forspoken is. Forspoken follows the journey of Frey, a young New Yorker transported to the beautiful and cruel land of Athia. In search of a way home, Frey must use her newfound magical abilities to traverse sprawling landscapes and battle monstrous creatures. Also, she has a sentient talking cuff that's like on her wrist, and it provides like map info and scans the area, and I think it does healing for you. It's your stereotypical wisecracking, quipping sidekick trope. Nothing new. This is basically an isekai in a video game. Okay, it's exactly an isekai, not basically. All right, let's talk about the Solace. From the first time I saw this game, I was convinced that we had the single button mashing combat system of Final Fantasy XV. However, I was wrong. There is some depth. Certain enemies have certain spell weaknesses, making you need to switch back and forth and logically think before jumping into a fight. The spells are flashy, but if you run in and button mash, you're probably gonna get your ass kicked. I'm gonna die, man! I especially like when they mix the enemy types, so you have to switch back and forth to their respective weaknesses on the fly. That was probably my favorite part of the entire demo when it started to get kind of crazy in the combat. Also, something that a lot of other reviews are probably going to miss is the music. The music's actually pretty damn good. It actually comes from the minds of two amazing composers. The first one being Bear McCreary, who just won the Game Awards award for Best Soundtrack last night for God of War Ragnarok, and Gary Scheinman, who's one of my favorite composers of all time. He's even privately sent me some music before. A strange thing to know him for, but he actually composed some music for this viral video series called Where the Hell is Matt? It was this guy who went around the world and did this kind of goofy dance all over the world in different places, and it was viral back in the early throes of virality and YouTube videos. I don't know why I'm telling you this. He did stuff for BioShock and a bunch of other stuff, and you probably know his work even if you don't know him. The UI, it was a tiny bit confusing, but it worked. There's a skill tree system that allows for customization and has a very handy and needed glossary on how the controls work. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it does work. The best way to play the game is in performance mode, at least on my PS5. I got it running pretty smoothly in 120 frames per second. Just don't try to run the game in quality mode. It won't work very well. At least it didn't for me on my PS5. I feel like it still needs a tiny bit of optimization there, but we'll see what happens when the full game releases. Let's talk about the world. It was huge, massive even. It feels great because Frey's running ability and magic parkour would feel kind of wasted in small hallways and enclosed spaces. You only have access to one small sector of the map, but even that small sector felt crazy huge. But, and this is where we start to get into some of the dread here, the game's big world was littered with enemies and tons of collectibles for what seemed like craftable gear and items, but it still had an empty feeling. Open world syndrome seems to be setting in on this game, where it starts to feel like open world for the sake of open world. I like the travel, and it does aid in that. But all that big empty world to sail past with flowers to pick and treasures to find, but to what end? The combat, while fun, was never particularly difficult and thus not that rewarding. Even in the first 30 minutes, I found myself wanting to skip fights because they felt like a waste of time before I head to my next destination. It could just be the nature of the demo, in that you kind of start in the middle of the game with a lot of stuff already unlocked, so you don't know the need for a lot of the stuff that you're finding. And you certainly don't need XP for a game that you're not even going to be leveling up in. It's a demo. On that note, it's worth mentioning here, the demo progress doesn't carry over to the full game, so if you play this game, be prepared to do it twice. So I want to give it the benefit of the doubt, but it has me worried that we have another situation on our hands like Horizon Zero Dawn, where it may be a good game, but it just feels very video gamey, with pointless tasks and treasure to find, to upgrade abilities and craft gear that ultimately ends up as filler. I really hope that I'm way off the mark on that comment, but we'll see. One other tiny criticism I had was the voice acting and line delivery felt a little bit canned and corny sometimes. There wasn't a lot of that in the demo. You really only got to hear the banter between Frey and the talking Cuff, where she would say things like, "Did you even count how many asses I kicked?" And he's like, "I stopped counting after the first couple. Ha ha ha, smug side character trope."
Were you counting how many asses we kicked there?
Sorry, I stopped after the first few.
The only reason I'm even bringing this up is I know that the game already got a lot of flack for how the characters were even introduced to begin with. The game got memed on pretty bad on social media because of how Frey was introduced, and it just felt a little out of touch and corporate. I don't know that they've fixed a lot of those issues. Hopefully the writing is a little more robust in the full game. They just didn't give you any of it in the demo. Basically, the entire story was shielded from the demo. If I had to link everything together, I would say that from what I played in the demo, this is not a risk. Spending your money, you're going to get your value out of this game. Not to mention the game drops in January, and quite frankly, I don't think we have a lot of other AAA titles coming out that I really personally care about. We've got Resident Evil 4 Remake in March, and then we pretty much don't have anything until May and June with Zelda and Final Fantasy respectively. Frankly, this is the perfect excuse to make sure that your backlog stays incomplete and as long as possible. I'm definitely going to get this. I would say that the points of Solace heavily outweigh the points of Dread, and I am looking forward to what seems to be a very robust game. I personally love Frey's design, and I love that we're getting a black character that doesn't fit into the buckets of stereotypes or is just a supporting character. She stands to be, if they do this right, she stands to be one of the best black characters of all time. But we'll see. Get this game if you're on the fence. That's it from me. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon, and long live the Turtle Kingdom. Enjoy your playthrough of Forspoken.